All right, what is going on, everybody? Today I'm going to do sort of like an in-depth look at the Philadelphia Eagles, the roster, and I guess individual positional groups and my thoughts on those groups. As an Eagles fan, the season's coming up. They're cutting down the roster from, 96 or something to 53 tomorrow. So I'm just going to go over each group, who I think is going to make the roster. Its roster's already pretty much set. About 95% of the 53. Man, they already know who's going to make it. Like, you're obviously not going to cut Hurts or Swift or Gainwell or Devontae Smith or A.J. Brown, stuff like that. But I just want to go over each group and sort of what I think about them going into the season for 2023 and what I think about the team in general as an Eagles fan. So let's get into it. For quarterback, it's obviously going to be Jalen Hurts, Mariota, and Tanner McKee. I believe they already cut Ian Book. Tanner McKee, I don't know if they're going to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster. They didn't last year. I do know that there's a new rule for a third quarterback because of the whole thing with the 49ers last year. But I do know or believe Mariota is going to be the backup. I know there's a lot of Eagles fans and Eagles media that's saying Tanner McKee has to be the backup because he was better than Mariota in the preseason. Now, on the depth chart, I still think they're going to keep Mariota just because he's a veteran. And Tanner McKee is a, 5th round rookie? So just out of veteran respect, I think they're going to keep Mariota as the backup on the depth chart. But if Hurts was out for, let's say, 7 games, I do think they would start Tanner McKee. But if Hurts is out for a half, I think Mariota would be the quarterback that goes in there just because he couldn't run you to a win. Like, if you're up by 2 touchdowns and Hurts goes out for the last 2 quarters, the third and the fourth, Mariota can just run around and win you a game and your defense can help you. Where if it's 7 games in a row, I think they would go with Tanner McKee just because, I mean, he's shown you he's a lot better of a passer than Mariota already, although he can't run very well. And he's doing that with third-string guys that aren't going to make this team. If he had, Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown out there with him and Dallas Goedert, he'd obviously be a lot better. But that's my thoughts on the quarterback situation. It's obviously going to be Hurts starting. Everybody knows that. But if an injury did happen long-term, Tanner, I think, would take it. Short-term, Mariota would take it. But that's my thoughts on the quarterback room. The running back room, it's really easy as well. It's going to be DeAndre Swift, Kenneth Gainwell, Boston Scott, and then I believe Rashad Penny. The only other running back they have on the roster right now is Trey Sermon, which I do know they like Trey Sermon, but I don't think they can cut Rashad Penny for Sermon, or at least I don't think they do. Penny, I think, is a better back. They're only going to keep 4 running backs. There's no reason to have 5. Now, I don't think DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny play 17 games. So I think they're going to put Sermon on the practice squad, and then he's definitely going to get in some games because, I mean, Rashad Penny's not playing 17. He's not suiting up 17 times for this team. I think that's pretty much guaranteed. Neither's DeAndre Swift. It's really difficult for running back to do, so I think they're going to have 4 on the roster, and then they're going to have Trey Sermon on the practice squad. He's going to get called up a couple of times. He's going to dress, but that's what the running back group is looking like. For wide receivers, obviously Devontae Smith, A.J. Brown, Quez Watkins. I think Olamide Zaccheaus is going to make it. He should. And then the 5th spot is really open. It's between Greg Ward, Britton Covey, Devin Allen, I think. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So, Greg Ward is the best wide receiver out of that group. But as a 5th wide receiver, you're not going to see the field unless an injury happens. So, I really think whoever's in this 5th spot has to be your punt and kick returner in order to make, more value out of that spot. Because you don't want your 5th wide receiver to just not not go on the field at all. Because then why is he, I guess for depth, but I know Devin Allen, he just actually had a kick return for 60, 70 yards or whatever it was. Britton Covey was on the team last year as a wide receiver on the roster, but he was their kick and punt returner. So, you see what I mean? They're just getting that extra value out of that 5th spot, which I think is important. Greg Ward can do punts and kicks. I wouldn't prefer him because he's not that fast. Britton Covey, I guess he's not going to fumble. It's his one thing is he does catch every punt and kick, but that's the bare minimum for that position is just to secure the ball. I'd like to see Devin Allen make it. He's the fastest. I guess as a 5th spot, you like something that you can't teach, and that's speed. I don't know I really don't know what they're going to do. I'm excited to see what they do for this 5th spot. I don't know. I'll say Devin Allen, but I really don't know. For tight ends, it's easy. It's Dallas Goedert, Jack Stoll, and Grant Calcaterra. Calcaterra hasn't shown you much, but he was like a 4th round pick, 5th round pick last year, or 6th round pick. I don't remember, out of South Dakota State, I think. I can't remember, but that's the 3. Jack Stoll is a good run blocking tight end. He's obviously going to make it. But that's the 3-man room for the tight ends. Right tackle is going to be Lane Johnson, Jack Driscoll, and Fred Johnson, I believe. Now, for the line, especially the Eagles, they like their linemen to be able to play multiple positions on the line. So Fred Johnson will be the 3rd-string right tackle, but they're not going to keep 3 left tackles. So those backup tackles can also play left tackle, if you know what I mean. So they're not going to keep 3 backups for every position. Like right guard is Cam Jurgens and Tyler Steen. Cam Jurgens is going to start and Tyler Steen will be backup, but Tyler Steen can also play center. So I have him as the backup center because Kelsey's the starting center. They're not going to keep a backup. They're just going to use one of the linemen on the roster that they have, which would be Tyler Steen for me. Left guard is Dickerson, Sua Opeta, and Josh Sills. So they're going to keep 3 there. And they could play guard or tackle, I think, or center. Like I said, they're going to rotate these backups depending on injuries. I think Jack Driscoll would be the starting right, or the backup right tackle if Lane was there. But if Mulata got hurt, I think Steen has a chance to get in there, or Fred Johnson. But the starting 5 is very obvious. It's Mulata, Dickerson, Kelsey, Cam Jurgens, and Lane Johnson. Now going on to the defense. At defensive tackle, you have Fletcher Cox, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Milton Williams, and then Marlon Tuipulotu. I think they keep 5 just because they rotate so much, and I think they're going to have a 5-man front, so they're always going to have 2 guys out there at once from this group, and they're going to be rotating them, especially with Fletcher Cox getting up there in age. You don't want him to take as many snaps as he did previously, like the past couple of seasons. Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter are mainly going to be your full-time guys. It's just Cox, I think, is going to be listed as the starter and get the first snap start just because that veteran status. And then after that, they're going to put in Jalen Carter for a majority of the snaps. And they should. He's younger. Might be better. You know, he's faster, stronger, younger. Milton Williams is also good out there. And then Marlon Tuipulotu, I guess he's looked fine in preseason. And he's been around for a couple of seasons. So that's my guess for the 5 defensive tackles. The left end, just Brandon Graham. Sort of like the offensive line, the defensive line, they're going to rotate these guys. So right end's going to have Josh Sweat and Derek Barnett. Although he did just request a trade like 10 minutes ago. Or the ability to seek a trade. But they would rotate. And especially at the Sam linebacker with Reddick, Nolan Smith, and Patrick Johnson. Like they're going to rotate those guys in at ends. So Brandon Graham is not playing 100% of the defensive snaps. He's probably only going to play like about 50 or less than that, 40%. But they'll rotate some of these younger guys in there as well. Will linebacker is going to be Cunningham and Nick Morrow. Zach Cunningham has earned the starting spot in preseason. I think originally it was going to be Morrow or Ellis. I forget his first name, Dylan or Dante Ellis. Who I don't have him listed here. He might make the roster. I don't know how many linebackers they're going to keep. I actually think he will make the roster. I'll throw him in there. But Cunningham will be your starter. And then Morrow or Ellis. And then middle linebacker is going to be Nakobe Dean. He'll finally get the start. And then Maddox Williams will be your backup. Although if Dean got hurt, they would probably throw in Ellis. Would be my guess over Maddox. They'll just have Maddox as the backup middle linebacker though. But Nakobe will be starting. And then Sam, we already went over, is going to be Hassan Reddick, Nolan Smith, and Patrick Johnson. And they're going to be rotating those guys in at end as well. Like Nolan Smith and Patrick Johnson, just to get him on the field. Especially Nolan Smith. I think they're going to want him at left end when Brandon Graham needs a rest. Because they're not going to keep him as a backup. They're going to have him on the field. Your cornerbacks are going to be Darius Slay, James Bradbury, Avonte Maddox, who will be in the slot. So he will be starting. And then I think they keep 6 and have 3 backups. They're going to be Josh Jobe, Keely Ringo, and Eli Ricks, I think. Josh Jobe has looked good in preseason, and so has Eli Ricks. I actually think Eli Ricks was like the highest graded corner in the first game, and he had a pick 6, I believe. He's from Alabama. He was undrafted. I know he was actually projected a first-round pick last year, or 2 years ago. So a year out from the draft that we just had, he was projected top 10 even, I think. And then he obviously, I believe, was injured majority of last season and went undrafted. But him and Job out of Alabama. Joe's been here for a couple of seasons. I think he's looked good, or what I've heard is he's looked good in practice and training camp. And then Keeler Ringer's a 4th-round pick this season. He has not looked good. I don't think they would throw him in there. If Slay or Bradbury got hurt, I don't think they go with Ringo. I think they would go with Josh Jobe and then Eli Ricks, maybe. Just because Ringo hasn't looked. Actually, Ricks is the same draft class. Jobe would be first. Jobe would be immediately in there for the outside corners if there was an injury. And then Ringo, I guess they might throw him before Ricks just because he's a higher pick. But he's not looked that good. But he's going to make the team just because he was a 4th-round pick. Safeties, and he's really young. I think he's like 20 or 21 years old. So he's got a couple years to develop. But your safeties are going to be Reed Blankenship is 100% the starter. And then you have Sidney Brown, Terrell Edmonds, Kevon Wallace, and Evans fighting for a spot at the other safety position. Blankenship is the no matter what starter for one safety. I think he'll be free safety, although I don't think we really do strong safety, free safety anymore. I think it's just 2 safeties. Blankenship, 2nd-year guy. I think he was undrafted last year. He'll be the starter. And then what I think they'll do for the 2nd spot is Sidney Brown's looked the best out of any of them, but he is a rookie, 3rd-round rookie. Terrell Edmonds and Kevon Wallace and Evans have been in the league for a couple of years now. I think what they'll do week 1 and on the depth chart, they'll start Terrell Edmonds, but Sidney Brown is slowly going to take reps from him. And I just think they're not going to be able to keep him off the field. I think he will be the starter in a couple of weeks. If there's an injury, he's the first guy in there, no matter what. I think Sidney Brown is. Maybe Kevon Wallace if it's like week 1 and Terrell Edmonds go down. I don't think they're throwing Brown. But if like week 8, week 9 come around and there's an injury, they're going to throw him in there. Kevon Wallace, let's say, is the edge over Evans just because he's been here for a while. But Evans has looked better in preseason. But I don't go to the practices, so I don't know what those are looking like for him. But I think they only keep 4 safeties. And then your kicker and punter are going to be Jake Elliott and Aaron Sipas. Elliott's great. Obviously, he's going to make it. Sipas had a pretty bad year last year. I know our special teams wasn't the best for punting. I would like a new punter. They brought one in and then they cut him, so I guess Sipas beat him out. I'm not the biggest fan of him. It's punter. I really don't have much to say. I'm not watching the punting film on Sipas. I just know last year he wasn't the best. Maybe it'll be better, but this is my outlook for the Eagles roster. I do want to talk about my expectations for them. I think they're going to have, they're not going to go 14-3 again just because of how tough the schedule is. They had one of the easier schedules in football last year because they played the AFC South. And the NFC South, did they play? No, they played the NFC North with the Bears, Packers, Lions, and Vikings, who they swept. So you're going to get a hard schedule. I think they're going to have more losses, and maybe they don't get the number 1 seed. But I do think they're still the best team in the NFC. I think they'll still go 11-6, 12-5, and get a 2 or 3 seed. And I would say that they'd be favored in every playoff game. Also injuries. They were a very healthy team last year, except for Hurts early in the playoffs, end of the season. Lane Johnson, I know, had an injury, but they were very healthy. And that's the number 1 thing is I'm hoping for health. You don't want to have any injuries, especially to your starters, because that could change a lot. Then, football, your depth really isn't that big for a lot of positions. If Devontae Smith got hurt, you'd have Quez Watkins as your number 2 wide receiver, which I don't want to see that. We were very lucky to have A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith for 20 games last year. That's going to be tough to do it again. I know Goddard got hurt last year. Hopefully he's healthy. But I do think they have more losses, but they're a better team. I know a lot of people say the defense lost a lot. Now they did, but it's kind of in positions that I'd say are less valuable. I know we lost Kaiser White and TJ Edwards, our linebackers, and replaced them with Dean and Cunningham. I don't think linebacker's that important, and the Eagles don't value linebacker. They really just got to fill the holes. You do have to pass cover. and just make your tackles. But the Eagles have been doing this for years where they get these undrafted linebackers and they plug them in. They get like 120 tackles, and then they get these big contracts elsewhere, and then we replace them with more undrafted players. It's just what the Eagles do. I think we'll be fine at linebacker. I know Nakobe Dean, people are saying he's a little undersized, but he's more talented. He's a better prospect than any of the linebackers we've had recently. I know he deals with injuries. Hopefully he stays healthy. And then we lost E.J. Gardner-Johnson at safety, but safety's another non-valuable position on defense. Like, it's probably this right barely ahead of linebacker for least valuable. They did draft Brown in the 3rd round. I know C.J. Gardner-Johnson had like 6 interceptions. Probably wasn't going to get that again. He did miss a bunch of games, probably like 6 or 7 games. I don't know. I just think those are easily replaceable. Now, the one that could hurt is Javon Hargrave went to the 49ers. He was our number 1 defensive tackle, so he was the only one we lost on our defensive front, but I think he's, 30 years old, and the 49ers gave him a 4-year, like $80-some million deal, so he's going to be 34 years old when that contract's up, and we replaced him with Jalen Carter, which I actually would take that 10 out of 10 times. Like, if we had the ability, if you said, we'll trade you Jalen Carter for Javon Hargrave, and then we're going to sign Javon Hargrave to $20 million a deal, I would have taken it. Jalen Carter's going to be cheaper. He's about 10 years younger, and I honestly think he's going to be better than Javon Hargrave. So it's kind of like the perfect timing we had with the departure of Javon Hargrave, with being able to get Carter in the draft. That would have been a big hole if we didn't get Carter. Like, if we would have gotten Bijan Robinson, we'd have a massive hole in the middle of our defense, which is more important than a running back. That's a very important position in the middle of your defense. And we were able to replace him the best we could. San Fran has all that money just because they obviously got their quarterback on a rookie deal and stuff. So they're able to afford it, I guess. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up because this video is already going on for a good amount of time. That's my Eagles sort of 2023 season prediction or outlook on them. Let me know what you guys think differently in the comments below. And let me know if you like this style of video. I had no script. I'm just talking about the team. But thanks for watching. I'm going to see you guys in the next one.